that problem of lack of funds, and also ensure that the students who come from poor backgrounds and who need to be in universities are funded more by the government, and those who are able to afford to pay, they pay a portion of their college fees. That is the basis of the new funding model, which, as you're aware, has run into some headwinds, and I'll be explaining what we are doing to rectify that. But the government, as you correctly put it, has taken education as a key pillar, and that is why the budget of the ministry of the budget of the whole government, 30% of it, actually almost 30% of it, comes to the Ministry of Education, and that is the basis upon which everything is being done, made possible to ensure that none of our students who need to go through school from ECD.
Let's break it down further, because looking at December, the grade 9, a lot of Kenyans were had jitters in regards to, are we ready as a country to transit to grade 9? Where are we in terms of classrooms, in terms of teachers as well?
Thank you for that. Thank you for that question. It is true that all the way up to, I think, October in 2024, there were jitters as to whether the government was going to be ready to transition grade 8 students to grade 9, because there were a lot of discussions as to where were grade 9 going to be domiciled, where is junior school going to be domiciled. Through the Presidential Working Party on Education Reform that was set up in 2022, going to 2023, the recommendation by 93% of Kenyans was that we should have JSS, junior school domiciled in primary school. So that decision then made it necessary for us to do an assessment of what do we require in terms of classrooms to ensure that there is a smooth transition from grade 8 to grade 9. And the ministry undertook a countrywide assessment of the students in grade 8 and determined that would require a total of 16,000 classrooms to accommodate the grade 9 students. So the classrooms construction then started in the month of October, and as at 6th of January this year, we had already constructed 14,500 classrooms, and the intention is to complete the construction of these classrooms by mid next month, so that would have the whole of the 16,000 classrooms. So when the transition occurred on the 6th of this month, we did have discussions with the head teachers, and we agreed that for those where construction had started and had not been completed or had not started, they would come up with methods to ensure that grade 9 is accommodated by either looking at whatever rooms that were available in the school, or ensuring that in the lower grades there is a sharing of classrooms so that we can have a classroom for grade 9, and that was done. So the transition went on smoothly, and as we speak, each and every student in grade 9 is in class. What is remaining is for us to complete the construction of the 1,500 that are ongoing, so that now the transition will be complete in terms of classrooms. In terms of teachers, the government has employed a total of 76,000 teachers in the last 1.5 years to ensure that we have enough teachers to cover the JSS teaching curriculum. And we are also doing another 20,000 this month, with their bias towards those who are in science, because we determined that we needed more teachers to do the STEM subjects. And so that 20,000 will continue reducing the ratio and ensuring that we move towards the optimum number. We have not reached the optimum number now, but we are working towards reaching that number. In terms of materials, the government has printed in excess, published in excess of 9.9 million books, which have already been distributed to the schools to ensure that each and every student has a book at the ratio of 1:1 in whatever subject that they are doing. What has happened in some of the schools where there has been inter-transfers, the numbers might have changed, and what we've requested the head teachers is to do an audit and then raise a pro forma, raise a request for the extra books, and those ones will also be sent to them in the next 1 month or so that each and every student has so availing the human resource. The government has done what it can to ensure that the transition is smooth. Yes, that's where we are.
We are also about 20,000 teachers. What are the terms of these teachers? A PNP or is an internship program that has been there previously?
Thank you. When we employed the last 46,000 teachers, they were employed on contract as interns for 2 years, but we then converted them into permanent and pensionable starting this month. And so the 20,000 that are being employed, I think, are also being employed as interns. Then they would be also converted into permanent and pensionable at an appropriate time. So that process is being done, that rationalization is being done. Over and above that, the Teacher Service Commission is also undertaking an exercise of retooling the existing teachers to ensure that they are brought into appropriate training to ensure that they are in consonance with the curriculum of CBC. So that retooling is taking place, and a good number of them, I think about 80,000 of them, if I'm not wrong, I will get the correct number, have also been retooled to ensure that they are able to assist in the teaching of the GSS classrooms. So there is a number of multiple approaches that are being done to ensure that we have enough teachers sufficient to train or to teach the learners that we have in this program.
Yes. And capitation has also been mooted by a number of people because we're always finding ourselves the capitation coming in late. What assurances can you give the country in regards to capitation? We had 19 billion, was it last week? And there were assurances after that money was disbursed, we'll be having more. What assurance can you give Kenyans?
Yes, we normally undertake capitation at the ratio of 50%, 30%, and 20% annually. 50% first term, 30% second term, and 20% third term. This year, we determined that the 50% was going to be 48 billion, which needed to be released. But because of budgetary constraints, we were able to release 19 billion initially. That money was released last week and was in the bank accounts of the schools last week. The next installment was to be of 14 billion, which was also released yesterday, and as we speak is in the process of being disbursed into the various school accounts. That makes a total of 33 billion out of the 48 billion that we need to disburse this term. And we are, of course, working with National Treasury very closely to see that the balance of 15 billion is released. Last year, the third term, when we came in, the capitation was released 2 days before opening of the school. So depending on availability of resources, we would be releasing this capitation as soon as possible because we are aware of the challenges that the head teachers get when the students are in school and the funds are not there. But as a government, we are doing everything possible to ensure that as we get the capitation, it is released and it's available to the schools. What we urge the head teachers and the principals is do not send away the students home because we are working day and night to make sure that the resources are availed to you. We're aware of the challenges, and sending them home would not help because then it creates a lot of stress to the parents, and we do not need that. What we need to do is work together to ensure that as we are doing our part, you are also trying to help us to ensure that the students remain in school. So we're urging the head teachers, please don't send the students home. We are working, and you'll be receiving the final badge for this term in the next few weeks.
And you've made that clarification because yesterday we ran a story in our news where an MP and an MCA were requesting schools not to send away students because capitation is coming. That's a good clarification coming from you. Let's look at the university funding model. It's hit a speed bump in court. What measures have you taken as Waziri to ensure that what needs to be relooked at in the new funding model will be something that will cater for each and every student that wants to pursue higher education in the country?
Thank you. You recall that the funding model ran into headwinds not just this year, but last year. Around September last year, there was hue and cry on the funding model that it was not working. Some of the students felt that they've been put in bands that they do not belong to because of their level of, or their parents' level of income. And it was felt that the MTI was not producing the actual result relating to what is the actual level of income of the parents. So what we did at the point when the universities were opening on the 5th of September last year, when the students also wanted even to go on strike, we did request the universities to accept the students as we dealt with the appeals that were coming from those who felt that they were not placed in the right bands. But at the same time, the president, and we thank our president very much for the support that he's been giving us and giving the ministry, appointed a committee to relook into that model and find out whether there are areas that need to be cleaned, there are areas that need to be aligned, so that that particular model then becomes fit for purpose. So that committee has been meeting and is continuing to meet, and even as we speak, they are in meetings trying to finalize with their report where they are looking at various issues. One of the issues they were looking at is issues related to what were the appeals that the students made, what areas of concern were the appeals related to. They're also looking at what are the costs of the university programs, what makes that cost. They're unbundling the cost of those programs so that we see whether those programs are properly priced, so to speak. They're also looking at the issue of loans, the loans that are being given. What are they sufficient? Are there rules and regulations that need to be put in place so that even the repayment of those loans are assured, so that the repayment rate is higher than, than the non-repayment of those loans. So they are looking at various aspects of that model. And one of the things they are looking at as well is the variables that were used in the means testing instrument that enables determination of the level of income of the parents. In other words, they are trying to find out whether the variables that existed, both the financial and social variables, are they sufficient to produce a result that places the parents as close as possible to their level of income. And so we were in that process of reworking that model so that we can come up with a model that is fit for purpose, because the intention of that model is to ensure that the students who deserve to be supported by government are supported by government. The ones who are capable of paying their way, pay their way. Because the initial model was not differentiating between who is able to pay and who is not able to pay, so that it was sort of uniform. You get a figure and that is it. So there are some people who are sort of benefiting from the suffering of others. So this is what was this was what the new model was correcting. And so the variables that were used is what also is being looked at to ensure that now we have expanded those variables to ensure that the errors that we get are within the scientific margins of error. So that is what is going on. So in that process, some people went to court in 2023, and the judgment was given recently, where the court, in their wisdom, found that that model is unconstitutional, and the basis of the argument from where we stand is not correct. So we have instructed our lawyers to appeal against that judgment and also to apply for stay of that decision, and that is ongoing as we speak.
Have you gotten the stay orders?
No, but we are going to. We are hoping that we are going to get it. We are waiting for a hearing date. We are waiting for a hearing date for it so that we can then have it done.
And as we wait for court, what happens to those students who are still pursuing higher education?
That's a very good question, because that is one of the questions we were asking ourselves, because this is a model that has been in existence for 2 years, and the judgment was being given when the cohort 1 and 2 in the model were in the second term. And we were asking ourselves, how then do you have a judgment that says it's null and void without any transition period being given to deal with the students who are in class. Also, the judgment then did not proceed to tell us whether we should send the students home. So what we've done is to look at other options, including the provisions under the Public Finance Management Act and how budgets are made, how appropriation is done. The funding model, the students that are in cohort 1 and 2, the funds that they were supposed to be released to them had already been budgeted for and appropriated. So on that basis, we think in our own interpretation that the funding was not stopped for the cohort that is in place. So we are proceeding to release those funds, and we've done so that the students can continue and complete the second year, so that if we do not get a stay, then we cannot apply this model for the next cohort that is coming in September. But we think it does not affect, in terms of releasing the resources, the cohort that is in place. And on that basis, we've assured the students to remain in school, and we've gotten a legal opinion from the AG to that effect, and we have started the release of their help and other scholarship funds from the university fund to their account so that they can complete their studies.
Okay. With the school feeding program, what is the government policy on that?
Now, the school feeding program, as you're aware, is a program that targeted the ASAL areas and the children who are in the low-income areas in towns or in urban areas. And to date, we are, as a government, feeding a total of 2.6 million students, children. Although that number, from our assessment and from the assessment of the government, is still low, the target actually is to ensure that we're able to feed a total of 10 million by year 2030. But currently, we are feeding 2.6 million students in the whole country. And it's an ongoing program, and I think the food for this term is already starting being distributed. And we work with other partners in terms of logistics, in terms of collecting data, but the program is solely run by the government and is fully funded by the government. Yes.
Any critical education sectors that are funded by donors, and if yes, what would happen if at all they decide to pull out? We've seen an example exactly in the Ministry of Health, although it has been receded. Do you have any programs that heavily rely on donors?
That are run or that are donor funded programs that relate to, for example, some infrastructure programs like what we just completed, the 16,000 classrooms. 11,000 of those classrooms were funded by the World Bank, and it was a grant. So we do not, as we speak currently, do not have a program that I can say is critical and that has been affected by the decision or the policy that has been made by the Trump administration. And if there is, then we would adjust ourselves to ensure that we're able to continue with those programs internally, because also as a government, as you are aware, we are doing a lot of rationalization. We are doing a lot of rationalization, including which of our sagas are have duplicating roles that need to be merged, which of them can be done by the ministry. So through this rationalization, we'll be making a lot of savings in income, and if there are areas that are being funded that then we need to support, we would be able to support them from our own internal sources.
How are the schools? But we had some bandits, and the government really worked together with the military and the Kenya police, really worked hard to ensure that those schools are refurbished and students are back. Are they back? Are there students? What is the status?
Yes, the students are actually back. The Ministry of Interior, together with the Ministry of Education and all government, we used an all-government approach, the Ministry of Public Works. This have come together and have ensured that those schools that were affected, some that were destroyed, are actually rebuilt back. I remember last week some were being actually opened and being launched. And as we speak, I know the ASAL Ministry and the Ministry of Interior are already in that space ensuring that even the food is being distributed to those schools and those students so that they are fully back in school. So the insecurity has been contained in those schools where there are fears they have been beefed up and all our students are in school. Even during exams last year, where there were a bit of challenges, we were able to move students to safer areas and all of them did the exams. So none of our students have been affected by the insecurity. It's already been contained.
And in regards to improving infrastructure, and especially in the arid and semi-arid areas, because we have seen some classes that are really wanting in some of the regions I'm talking about, and especially in the bandit-prone areas.
The ministry is concerned that we have certain areas in the country that has classes that are not of the standard that is required even in other areas. So what we intend to do and what we are planning to do is undertake an audit of all those schools and find out what is the infrastructural requirement for us to ensure that we have classes that are fit for purpose in those areas. Number two, we are working very, very closely with the members of parliament through the national government constituency development fund to build this infrastructure. In fact, out of the 16,000 classrooms, the ministry is doing 11,000 and the other 4,000, actually a total of about 6,000, would be done by the national government CDF through the members of parliament. So working with them, we are able to identify the needs of those schools and we are able to ensure that classrooms are now being done or that infrastructure is being done in those schools. And whatever support that they need, we are able to rationalize, we are able to align so that we ensure that each particular school has sufficient classrooms, sufficient infrastructure to ensure that our students are well taken care of. So we work with each and every member of society and other donors where we get the support and they do the construction so that we are able to ensure that all our schools are well catered for. But we are doing an audit to just ensure that we are not leaving any part of the country out, so that we have a standard. That's why we talked about equality, so that we have an equal set of classrooms. We are standardizing them. We are doing a lot, even in terms of ensuring that even where we do not have internet and we are producing digitization or coming up with digitization, we are coming up with issues relating to using the Starlink, maybe in those areas. We are working with Kenya Power to do the internet using the last mile, just to ensure that we are as close as possible. We bring all our students in the country as close as possible to each other in terms of equity and quality and accessibility.
Talking of digitization, where are we especially? Your ministry for the last 1 or 2 years has been very ardent to ensure that our TVET institutions are really up to par, and especially when it comes to digitization.
We have a robust program that we are undertaking the TVET institutions, and each particular TVET institution has a G2Me lab to ensure that our students have enough computers to undertake not just their studies but also to work, because some are doing online jobs and they're actually being able to even pay their school fees and pay their upkeep from these programs. We're also doing IHUBs in all the wards in the country. It's a government program to ensure that each ward has an IHUB, and this we are working in conjunction with the members of parliament through the national government constituency development fund, just to ensure that there's no area, there's no part of our country that is left behind in terms of technology, because this is where we are moving towards. So there are robust programs that are ongoing and they are producing results. A lot of our students are already engaged in these activities and they're making good money. They're actually self-employed, and the TVETs are leading in this program. And in fact, most of our students including the trainers, not just the students, including the trainers, when they are not in class, you would find them on their computers and doing online jobs. It's an area that is a very, very progressive and very productive.
Talking of jobs, and especially for what programs are there, or what plans have the ministry has to ensure that they are assimilated somewhere? We have seen and we've heard about jobs abroad, jobs in Europe, and especially for technical courses like plumbing, masonry. What plans are there to ensure that at least these people are also assisted in the job market? Because the TVETs have become so robust now.
The TVETs have become so robust, and what really is happening is that the graduates from our TVET institutions either get jobs when they come out or they become employers themselves because of the training that they have. And we are working very closely with a lot of the other countries, and we have signed bilateral agreements of job mobility from this country to their countries, including where we are aligning our curriculum to specific requirements in those countries where they are going to get these jobs. And so the programs that we have, including the CBET that we've rolled out, is demand-driven. Our programs are designed to be demand-driven. That means we are working. You tell us what is it that you require our trainees skills, what skills do you require our trainees to have, so that when they come into the market, they are job ready, you do not need to retrain them. So in working with them, and we come up with a policy, a dual training policy, where our trainees train in college 50% of the time, and 50% they train in industry, so that by the time they are coming out, they are already hands-on in the field that they are training. And so it is a robust area, and we are rolling out programs and extending our programs to various sectors and various spheres that have not been rolled out before, so that we have people who are trained. For example, if you want a farm hand, that farm hand would be trained by one of our TVETs, and by the time we are employing him, he knows what he's supposed to do in various areas. So the training has been extended, and we are doing very well with the other countries where we are working with them.
And still to ensure that we recognize Masons who've been there for years and they have never been to any technical or vocational training institute. Is that program still on?
That program is on. That program is on, and it's called Recognition of Prior Learning. We came up with a policy in 2023. It was rolled out in 2023, and it's now recognized that if you have been in informal employment and you are trained and you have a certain skill, you can come through a TVET, and then we recognize that training by giving you a certificate on the basis of the policy of recognition of prior learning, which then enables you progress to the next stages that you wish to train in. So that's a policy that is already there because it was an area of informality where we would not even know how many people we have in those areas. But now we do, and we're inviting them. In fact, we have graduated quite a number of them and given them certificates, and they are doing very, very well. And it's actually enabling people come into the formal sector in terms of the economy and the working environment.
Yes. Previously, where we have disasters like flooding interrupt not only examination but also learning, what plans are there to ensure that we circumvent these challenges?
What we came up with, as you're aware, we did our KCSE last year, and we had about 965,000 students undertake this exercise, these tests, these exams. 246,000 of them qualified with a C+ to progress to university. And so we came up with a policy to allow those who have not made it to undertake a mid-year exam in July so that they are able to improve their grades if they want to move to tertiary institutions. This is because, as you correctly say, sometimes a disaster happens, not just floods. It could be a student was sick. It could be there was a death in the family. It could be there was a girl in maternity hospital, or whatever, for whatever reason, that this child or this learner has not done that well, not because that is their level, but because of that disaster that happened within that period of the exam. So when you determine that they've gotten a certain grade, and we determine that that is their level, and yet that is a level that came about because of that disaster that happened within that period, we think it was unfair. So we thought, let us have a July exam to sort of improve their grades so that they can join their colleagues in September when they are going to school without them losing a year. Because then what happens when you do the normal repeat exam that you're going to do in November, then you've lost 1 year because you would have to come to the university or to the tertiary institution the following year. So to avoid a situation where a student is losing that 1 year, we introduce a July exam to enable them to The results come out in August, and in September they're able to go to school without losing, because their level was not determined by what the grades they normally get. Is because of a disaster that happened. So that's why we came up with that, to mitigate, as an intervention, to mitigate that loss and ensure that we are not leaving any of our children behind.
And it's a first. During my time, if you had to repeat an exam, you had to repeat all the subjects, and you had to wait for an year. How did you come up with this program?
We had a sitting with a team from the Kenya National Examination Council, and as usual, when you're in this position, you have to keep thinking, and your thinking must always be, what is the best interest of the learner? What can we do to make it better for them? So you have to keep thinking about, how do you work in this space to ensure that the policies, the programs that you have, are actually benefiting the people for whom we are working. So as we were having that discussion, we said, look, I think it doesn't help to put these children back and, sometimes move them even to Form 3, and yet maybe they've only failed in 1 or 2 subjects. It's something that we can do, because in this day and age, it is not what you can remember or knowledge you've acquired. It is what can you do with the knowledge that you've acquired. How do you apply that knowledge to solve the day-to-day problems of society? And so in doing that, because information is available, we thought it's only fair that we can have this exam in July, and they need just to do the subjects that they failed in order to push their grades up. Then they can move to the next stage. So that is the reason why we came up with that policy. And it is in the interest of the students, in the interest of the parents, so that you do not have the children lagging behind. When you have a program, for example, that medicine program in Moi University that is supposed to take 6 years, when it takes 9 years, and somebody is in school for 9 years, both the child and the student and the parent become very stressed. So these are some of the things that, as we sit here, we keep thinking, what is the best way to solve that challenge? The challenges are going to be there, but what is important is, what is the government doing to ensure that that challenge, that intervention is done? So the interventions we are coming up with are interventions that are supposed to benefit the learners, to benefit the children, to benefit the Kenyans.
At least now, their examination is, what about issues like flooding? We've seen in the last rains where we had schools submerged for months or even weeks. Are we bettering infrastructure to ensure that the recurrence of flooding, perennial flooding and insecurity as well, are sorted out once and for all?
Yes, it's true. Those areas that the flooding has taken place, the insecurity, what we are doing is to look at the frequency of those areas that flood, so that we do not continue, for example, rebuilding the school in the same place where there was flooding. We probably need to move that school to a higher ground, because in 2 or 3 years or 5 years there's going to be another flood. So working together with the other ministries, with the other public works, the Ministry of Interior, ICT, we use the county governments. We just have to have that whole government approach to solve the problems in the best way possible for the benefit of each and everyone. Yeah.
And in regards to a comparison between the previous education system that we had and CBC, CBC is a little bit expensive. What can you tell those parents who have this view?
The CBC may look expensive now because we are in that process of transition. In the long term, and because of the benefits that it will bring, because we are producing now students who are all round. They are utilizing their competencies, they are utilizing their skills, they are using their memory to exam what they can remember and things like that. It's a 360 person that we are producing. At the end of the day, the returns would overshadow or would override the cost. And the cost at the moment is because of perhaps a misunderstanding of how it should be done. For instance, the parents that have talked to me, sometimes they say the teachers have said each child maybe they're learning about, let's say, chicken, and the teacher said bring each child to come with a chicken. So that's not how it's supposed to be applied. So these are things that are being cleaned up to ensure that that cost is within control. So in the long run, it is not more costly than what we used to have. And the government has come in as much as possible to reduce that cost. For example, the provision of books that is done 100% by the government is a reduction of the cost that could have come from the parents, but now it's not coming from them. So at the end of the day, working together to ensure that we align the program and we remove whatever areas where there are cobwebs, whatever areas that there are incompetencies, we'll be able to resolve those.
Yes. Private schools to ensure that not only do they give quality education that it should be there, but they also do not exploit parents.
The school policy in this country is one. The regulator is one. Just the same way that we are dealing with the public schools is the same way that we deal with the private schools. But remember, the private schools, the parents choose to take their students or their learners to the private schools, and it's like a contract that they sign. So they are free to ensure that where they feel something that's within the agreement that they had is not the correct position, they'll deal with it in the normal way of the relationship between the parents and the schools. But in terms of quality, in terms of the provision, in terms of the rules and regulations, in terms of the infrastructure in those schools, including the safety requirements, those are regulations and policies that we implement as a ministry. And where we find that they have been flouted, we deal with them. That's why, for example, we closed 348 schools that did not meet the requirements of boarding schools. Those included both private and public schools. And when they met the requirements, we were able to open for them, and they have continued. So the standards are the same.
Yeah, it's a good thing, Waziri, we brought that question as to what happened in Hillside last year. I remember ensuring that schools observe the up to. Where are we with that?
That task force went through the schools. We did an inspection, and that's why they came up with the 348 that were not meeting the standards. And they were told, you, this particular school, your mistake is 1, 2, 3. And they were able to correct that. And now inspectors went back where the correction was done. The schools were opened. Where the correction was not done, the schools remained closed, and they were converted into day schools. So we are very clear in our mandate that the safety of the learners are paramount and they are non-negotiable. So where we have provided the safety policies, and each and every school is aware of them, they need to be applied. Where they are not applied, we will apply the sanctions. And so that is what happened because of that unfortunate event in Darasha, which was a very painful thing to the country. Yeah.
Ensure there is transparency in the allocation of funds so that we may ensure that bursaries are not misused.
The process of ensuring that bursaries and any allocations that the government makes is transparent is through the audits. We do audits every year to ensure that each particular resource that was given to whatever school, whatever institution, whatever person was applied for the purpose that it was meant. So that is an exercise that is done, and of course there are rules and regulations and guidelines on who should get a bursary, what level of income their parents should be in, and things like that. Where we audit and we find there was misalignment, then action is taken. Some of the action that is taken is administrative, so that's why the public may not be aware of it, but action is taken to ensure that as we move forward, year to year, we are improving that system. So there is an audit that takes place in each and every institution for the resources that are given to them.
We are to age and we are digitizing everything, including matters learning. How is the ministry preparing for the digital transition, and especially on e-learning and e-tools?
Currently, we have the NEMIS system that we use as a ministry, and this system is being improved and expanded to what we are calling KEMIS. We are increasing it to make it a bit larger, Kenya Education Information Management System. And in it, we are going to have those we're going to have portals relating to these aspects, including of procurement, of accounting, the number of students we have, the capitation, so that when you are somewhere, you can be able to view, you have sight of everything that is happening in our institution. So we are very, very clear about the digitization. We are also clear about ensuring that even collections, even payments, even our institutions are moved into the e-citizen platforms, so that everybody is aware that we are not hiding anything. Resources can be seen, numbers can be seen, disbursements can be seen. You know, we have a system where dashboard where when you get in, you're able to see what is happening everywhere. And this is a process that is being undertaken all the way to the universities.
Was released, you released that examination. There have been complaints in regards to some people who feel aggrieved, there's some people who didn't get the results. How are you dealing with these complaints, and what is the turnaround time for all the cases?
Every year, when exams are released, there are complaints. But this year, the complaints were not that many. And there is, under the Kenya National Examination Council Act, if you have a complaint, you have 30 days from the date of release of the exam to raise your complaint, and the Kenya National Examination Council team will look at that complaint, assess it, and if it is found to have merit, it will be corrected and you'll be informed of the outcome. So there is a window of 30 days within which you can raise whatever complaint that you have so that it can be looked at. If you feel, for example, that you didn't get the grade that you got, that you should have gotten, then the team would pick your script and another different team would look at it to determine whether that grade you got was the correct grade. So there is a room for you to raise a complaint and then it is attended to. Yes.
And we are talking about for the in the KC. Only the KCSE. 7,200. Some people feel it's a bit on the higher side.
That's an assessment that was done because we were not able to determine how many subjects, for example, you are going to undertake.
The 7,200 covers any paper that you would want
Yes,
to see.
exactly. So really, it's not really too much. It's and you see, we've been able to sort you out in terms of you being able to undertake this within the year, so that you don't have to stay out for a whole year. So the cost-benefit analysis in terms of what you're going to gain vis-a-vis if you are to stay out for a year, or if you are to go back from 3 and start the whole process again, it's not too much, I would say. Yeah, thank you.
Waziri, you've been in office for less than 1 year. What are some of the challenges as well? Because the ministry itself has challenges. What challenges have you been facing in the last couple of
Well, immediately I was appointed, we faced the challenges of strikes. I think we started with the NAT team that felt that their CBA was not being honored, and the funds that they were supposed to have gotten in July, they had not received them, so they wanted to go on strike. And remember, this was third term because we were appointed in August. So third term, then you'd have had an effect affecting all the students that are going to school, some of whom are going to do exams. So that was the first job I had to navigate, and I thank the NAT team, because when we sat down and we were able to analyze what we need to do, we were able to reach a compromise and the strike was averted. The next one then was KUPPET almost immediately. And their concern was also the 46,000 teachers who needed to be made permanent and pensionable, among other complaints. And we were able also to negotiate with them, and we agreed that we'll ensure that these teachers are placed in permanent and pensionable in January 2025, which has been done. So I also thank them for that kind of thing. Then the next one was WASU and KUSU and KUDEA for the universities. They were coming in very fast, one after another. And we also were able to negotiate with WASU and KUSU and KUDEA on the issues that they raised. But I determined, or we were able to determine, that one of the issues that face the unions is the issue relating to the negotiation of their CBAs that seem to happen at the end of the cycle instead of at the beginning of the cycle. So as a team, we've agreed that negotiation of CBAs should be done at the beginning of the cycle, because that makes it easier to plan. It makes it easier for government to plan their resources. It makes it easier for the unions to know what is happening, what amounts that they'll be getting when. So that, I think, is an activity that is already starting to ensure that we start at the beginning to avert future strikes, so that we can keep all our teachers and all our lecturers in class. Then came the Moi University, which was a very big one, and they were out for a long time. It took us a long time to negotiate a return to work formula, and we managed to do it, because that's where some of the students had been out for. They've been in school for 9 years. I went there, I saw them, and it was very depressing. So we agreed that we need to do something about it, and we did. So they are back in school, and the programs are running. And the good news is that they were able to come up with strategies to ensure that they cover their hours, and hopefully they are going to graduate in March. Some of them being graduated in December, I think it was December 2019. The next group will graduate in this coming March next year. So that was next year. Exams, because normally the exam is a big one, but we were able to navigate that. The challenges were not that many, and the results have come out. Of course, there are many other challenges that we have to deal with every day. There's one issue after another. There was the issue of Darasha, which was also a very bad issue that led us to deal with the issues of fires. There have been fires that students burning down their dormitories because of their disagreements with their administration. So we've urged the teachers, the head teachers, through the associations, to engage the students in consultations where there are issues that they have town halls in school, discuss them, to avoid a situation where students feel they're not being listened to, so that they can resolve the issues without ending up destroying the property, because this ends up costing the parents, because as a ministry, if you burn a school down or you burn a dormitory, it's your parents who are going to be able to be required to rebuild that dormitory. So there have been a number of challenges that we have to deal with on a daily basis. The issues relating to resources, the resources are not sufficient. How do you balance, between what the schools want, what the universities want, vis-a-vis the resources that we have. The new funding model is a big one and is still ongoing, where we have to deal with the issues that the students have raised and the parents have raised, vis-a-vis keeping them in school and ensuring that has resources to ensure that the schools are ongoing. So these are the balancing acts that we've been able to deal with as we have joined the government these last few months. The issues of ensuring that we have sufficient classrooms for grade 9 when the construction only started in October. So we had October, November, and December. We just had three months to ensure that by January we have classrooms for the students to go in. So it hasn't been a bed of roses. It has required to be sufficiently supported. But we've had a lot of support. We've had a lot of support from His Excellency the President, from the Head of Public Service. We've had a lot of my cabinet colleagues, a lot of support from the members of parliament, and they have been very, very encouraging. The ministry has a very good team, a very dedicated team, very professional. In fact, when we were going to do the exams, I had a virtual meeting with all our field officers, and I requested them that none of them should go for holiday, for Christmas or for leave. So we were able to work through all of us going to the fields. If you notice, we've been going to the fields. Each one of us is somewhere doing something just to ensure that the classrooms are being done, the transition is taking place, the exam is being done, there's no malpractice, and we've worked very well. Ministry of Interior has been very, very supportive. The national government, the team that we call the machine, the Ngao, they have worked with us very, very closely and supported us. So we've seen that support, which has enabled us achieve milestones that otherwise would not have achieved on our own. So that support, the whole of government approach, the support we've had from Treasury. When we go there, we tell them, as we have children, sort us first. So they help us through this, and that's why I'm telling the teachers we are doing everything possible to ensure that the resources are there. We give them the support that they require. We are talking to their unions. We are talking to their associations. Our doors are open. Consultation takes place every day. So it is all hands on deck to ensure that our education sector is not, in shambles, as some people were trying to say, so that we bring it back to where it is supposed to be. We have tried as much as possible to ensure that we bring hygiene into this particular sector, so that when everybody knows, none of us here has a certificate from elsewhere. We all went through this system. So when we kill it, we are killing ourselves. So we are ensuring that we bring our education sector, our education standards to where it is supposed to be. And it's for everybody. It's not just the ministry. It's not just the government. It's not just the county government. You've seen issues relating to the bursary that the county government is raising, legitimate issues relating to the children that they are supporting, because they do support children using those bursaries. So these are things that we need to negotiate and agree how do we do it. If it is in the law, how do we manage that law to ensure that the children do not suffer? Because the first thing that you have to do is make sure that whatever decision you are making, whether you are a government official, whether you guys in the media, are you making this for the benefit of the learners, or are you making it for your own benefit? So sometimes even the information that has to come out there, when it's not correct, then it becomes, it affects not just the government, affects everybody. Issues of using social media, it is our children. So when you misuse that, and that's where, for example, the Minister of ICT came in very strongly to support us during the exams, because we were able to deal with issues relating to phones, messages in phones, that kind of thing. When all of us put our heads together, put our hands together, then we were able to achieve. So I'm very grateful for the support I have gotten. The challenges have been there, but that support has enabled me handle those challenges. The team has been very, very supportive. I've got very good PSs who are very, very knowledgeable, and they've helped me through the process, so that the induction, although it was hot, it wasn't that bad. We were able to come through. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and as we come to the view, Waziri, I'm looking as also social support and countenance, because we have seen some issues that are, everybody is in one way or another dealing with a form of illness, and if it's not you, maybe or a child, how are we in our education system, and especially now education is one of the major problems that is affecting young people?
We have it in our programs, in our schools, in our institutions. There is a psychosocial support officer or teacher who is responsible for it, so that they identify those cases early and they're able to talk to the students and talk to the children, because sometimes it is not something that is happening in school. It could be something that is happening at home. So they are able to identify that and start handling it. It is there, and where they need to escalate it, we are able to give them the support they need vis-a-vis the other, county government teams, the medical teams from there. They were very supportive. Like in Darasha, the psycho-support system was from the Nyeri County. The team was there to assist the parents, and together with the team from headquarters, and we were able to take, that disaster was able to be managed in that sense. So it is there in our programs. It is something that we are alive to, and it's something that we are not, it's front in our system, so we are dealing with that as well.
Yeah. Your final closing statement.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. I just want to say that as a country, education is a pillar and it is fundamental. And I would request that each and everyone who has a role to play, including all the stakeholders in the education sector, be it the unions, be it the teachers, be it the students, be it the government, that we first and foremost look at the effect of the decisions that we make, so that whatever decision we make, whatever demands that we make, must be demands that are in support of the best interest of the learner, so that we have an education system that is across the world, because as you are aware, we are now able to send a lot of our people to work outside our own country. If we then have situations where we are demeaning our own education system, it affects even our rating outside this country. So I would urge that whatever decisions we do, whatever challenges that we have, we are able to deal with them in a sober manner to ensure that we do not affect our sector. And I want to thank each and every Kenyan for being patient with us through these challenges and for helping us. Some of you have given us a lot of ideas. You've sent us messages of support. You've sent us messages of solutions. You've sent us ideas on what we need to do to resolve certain things. And we welcome this. And soon we'll be going around the country in the 47 counties to sensitize our people in what we are doing in the education sector, sensitize people in what is CBC, what's the funding model, why are we doing the things that we are doing, and we need your support. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're hoping for another engagement soon.
Hopefully.
Yeah.